Yeah.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode. And if you're looking on your screen right now, we've got a one of one as my guest today. You might recognize him as Scott from the Real World Brooklyn, or in some cases, or in most cases these days, you might recognize him as from his YouTube channel, Scott Herman Fitness. What's going on, Scott? Thanks for stopping by the show today.
Yo, thanks for having me, Mike. How's your day going?
Not bad. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's kind of funny how it all came together just a little over a week ago. There was a fan page that I think shared a picture of you as 10 real worlders that should be on the challenge. And that's just kind of how it all came together so spontaneously. But glad to meet you.
Yeah, and I've actually been on that page a few times, and I've been talking some smack here and there over the course of the last probably like 5 or 6 months because, I'm at a point in my life where I'm pretty much retired. I do whatever I want. I basically work out and make YouTube videos, and I've always wanted to do a challenge. In fact, it was the only reason I did the show was so that I could do a challenge, and I never did one.
But I have to assume, coming off your real world, the calls had to have been coming.
No, I got a call for the first season, and it was at a point. So, if we want to just dive right in, we can dive right in.
Oh,
and,
yeah, go
get
for
started.
it. Yeah.
So, I'm sure you've had people come on here and talk about, what it's like being on the real world. And a lot of people assume just because you're on a reality show, you make a lot of money, right? And it's like, no, you get paid. I think it was like $500 a week, but you only got paid $300 of that $500 because they would keep money. So at the end of the season, all the rules that you broke and all the shit that you broke, you had to pay for that out of your pocket. So they film it. It's great TV. And they're like, by the way, you're paying for that table you just smashed. Like on my season, there was a scene where JD got like pissed and he smashed the glass table with this like basket that had some yarn balls in it. And it was really funny too, because when he smashed the table, one of the balls like went straight in the air and came down and like bounced off his head and then like went the other way. But he was so mad he didn't even notice. But yeah, dude, they make you pay for all that. Like if curfew is 10 o'clock and you come home at like 10:05, it's like $30 charge, $50 charge. So, you were, losing money throughout the season. The majority of us, though, we were able to collect the rest of that cash. But, you're not getting paid a lot. It's usually the second or third season. I mean, even with the challenge, your first appearance in the challenge, you don't get paid a lot to be there. But once you're a reoccurring cast member, they raise how much they pay you. So coming out of the show and then moving into the city, I moved into an apartment complex called Stuyvesant Town, right, on 14th and 1st Street with Bea and Devin. And Chet was in the city, too, living with his brother. And so, the three of us are in this, not the biggest, apartment complex that we were staying in, just barely big enough for two people. And it was three of us. I think Bea and I actually shared a room, But the goal was to go out there and continue to pursue, why we were in New York or on the show to begin with. Because our season was a throwback season, and it was the first season where we didn't have a collective job together, right? So we were all pursuing like modeling, acting, show hosting, dancing, in the city. So Bea was always going out and pursuing the dancing. I was going out pursuing modeling and acting, and Devin was going out pursuing like Broadway and singing. So the goal wasn't to be home, but yeah, it was like the $3,200 a month back then for this small little apartment. And basically the only way that we were paying the bills was with our appearances. So, we would get hired to go do an appearance, and we would go, I'd go do a bar appearance in like New Jersey or Massachusetts or somewhere in New York or Connecticut, and just kind of do my rounds, getting paid, anywhere between like $1,200 to maybe $1,500. But that wasn't always guaranteed. And, if any of our cast members, like we had a pact, like, hey, nobody from our season gets paid less than $1,200 to do a bar appearance, right? And then like Caitlin and Sarah started doing bar appearances for like $400 instead of to fuck the rest of us over. We're like, dude, like,
wow,
we made you like, it's cool that you want to get that $400, but like now you're watering down everyone else's pay because that same bar is going to reach out to us and be like, well, we had Sarah here for $400. I'd be like, well, good for her. I want $1,500. I got a $3,200 monthly apartment I got to pay for, right? So, basically pursuing the modeling, for me, pursuing the modeling and acting in the city, doing these bar appearances, just watching my credit card debt go through the roof, getting to a point to where I'm having a hard time sleeping at night because my credit cards the finance charges on my credit cards monthly was higher than what I could afford to pay each month to try to pay them down. And, a lot of people on my season, they assumed, that I had a lot of money to just, throw around everywhere because at one point Caitlin was going to leave the show. And she was going to leave the show because she had gotten fired from her job like 2 or maybe 3 months before the show started filming because she's transgender. And obviously back then it was still a new thing and she ended up getting fired. I don't think they outright said that to her, but that was part of the reason why. So her bills were piling up. We're only getting paid $300 a week to be on the show, and we still have to buy our own food, pay for our own booze, right? Like they don't pay all your bills while you're there, or else it wouldn't be real, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing a lot of work with the LGBT Center on 12th in like 3rd Street, I think, in New York City. And she was building out like this whole database or website for people who were transgender that needed a place to go and to find information. And she was going to have to leave the show because she couldn't pay her bills. She's like, I got a storage unit I can't pay for. I got all these other bills I can't pay for. So I ended up writing her a check for like $1,500. I think this was on like episode like 9 or 10. And like I probably had like $2,100 in the bank when I gave her that check for $1,500. And some people's reactions were like, oh, he's a male model. Like he's got plenty of money. It's like, dude, you only get paid like $300 for a men's health photo shoot. Okay. And then they reuse those photos over and over again for like a year and don't hire you because they just reuse those photos and you've already been in the magazine. Like it's not as liquid as you might think, which I came to find out as my credit card debt started going through the roof. And so one of the fans of our season happened to work at Google. And I had worked in a gym since I was 14 years old, so almost 10 years I've worked in a gym, every job from maintenance to general manager, personal trainer. I've built a few gyms too. And so I just really missed like that environment of helping people and working with people. And so I started a YouTube channel, not even knowing that I could make money doing it. I just like had this innate desire to just sit down and give advice on this platform that at the time was extremely new. And so this guy, his name is Ben. I'll never forget him. Ben Ling. He gave me a call and he's like, hey, man, I work for Google. Come to our offices in New York. And so I went there. I spent the day and he's like, listen, you can make money with YouTube. If you're consistent and you get monetized. And, he showed me the ropes. And I saw that as like a really big opportunity. And I was getting to the point to where I was moving out of the city. I was going back to the gym that I had worked at for so long as a general manager. And my goal was I was going to work there during the day. And then at night, I'm going to film my videos and I'm going to blow this thing up. And it was around that time where I just started getting the momentum moving that I got my call for the challenge. And I had to make like a really tough adult decision because I knew if I went on the challenge, obviously I'm going to get paid for going there. If I win, I'm going to make a lot of money. If I become a popular character, I can obviously turn that into more lucrative deals with like bar appearances and all those other things that come with that. But if it doesn't work out, then I'm fucked, right? I got no money, can't pay my bills. Mm-hmm. I have no solid structure, in place so that even if I do go there and do well, you don't know if you're going to get called for the next one. And so I had just got my sponsorship with BSN. By the way, like I was the first person in the, ever to get a supplement sponsorship for being a social media influencer. Because it was also new, this stuff was also new that when people saw me in the gym filming myself, they thought I was a conceited prick. Like, why are you filming yourself? What's like everyone, and people would tell me like, you're never going to make money with YouTube. That's really stupid, but I saw something that no one else did. And now look, here we are almost 12 years later. And I'm, the original, the OG in the fitness YouTube space. My videos are embedded all over the world. I could make 0 videos right now. And that monthly money that comes in through monetization never goes down because my videos are everywhere. But you had to obviously, have the foresight to see that opportunity. And I did at the time. And as upset as I was, because like I said, the only reason I did the show is because I wanted to do the challenge. And not even necessarily to be on TV. The challenge is cool, right?
It's
Like
pretty cool.
the shit you have to do there, that's right up my alley. You know, my wife, you know, God bless her, she won't do Tough Mudder or Spartan Race, but she'll go there and like have drinks and watch me do it. You know what I mean? I love that stuff. I live for that stuff. I love competition. And so to have to turn that down to do this, it really sucked at the time. But, you know, it's led to a lot of really, big opportunities for me to get to where I am now, where, you know, I have my dream house. I live in Florida. All my bills are paid. You know, I have a beautiful wife, amazing daughter. You know, everything has worked out for me. And I actually said to my wife about a year and a half ago, and that's when I started reaching out to like Dan Castor and some of these other guys. Unfortunately, it's been so long that a lot of my contacts that did work at Buneman Murray no longer work at Buneman Murray. So, you know what I mean? But they remember me. Like I emailed Dan, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, Mr. Fitness?" And I was like, "Shit, I guess I left an impression, you know, with these guys." But I said to my wife, I was like, babe, I was like, you know, if I have any regrets, it's that I just never did the challenge, and it's just something that I always wanted to do. And so I started reaching out. I hadn't talked to Mark Long in probably like 8 years, you know, and we started chatting back and forth. I gave him a phone call. We got caught up on things, and then I was emailing, you know, the main show. And then as Mark and I were talking, then he started his OG season. And he's like, dude, I think you'd be perfect for the OG season. You know, send us in like your headshot and your bio and all this other stuff. And so I had all that stuff submitted even before season 1 came out. And I didn't get on season 1. And I think it's mainly because I'm not technically an OG, right? So they wanted the first season to be all OG, you know, real world challengers and then have them come on. But, you know, then back in December, Mark reached back out to me. He's like, hey, man, I think we might be able to get you on, you know, one of the next seasons. They were just about to start filming season 3. He's like, send us in another casting video. And eventually I'll show you guys my casting video. It's funny as fuck. Okay. Like,
you gotta do that.
You do. Like, you know, I like, I still have, I got in my closet over here, dude. Like I have my original casting video for the Real World. You know, like I'll have to share that with you. Like, it's so cheesy. I know exactly why they picked me for the show. Like, it was beast mode. Like, if I'm going to do this stuff, and to be honest with you, the only reason why I even made my first casting video to get on the Real World Brooklyn was because one of my clients that I had, like, for 5 or 6 months straight was like, "Do you make your casting?" Because she loved me and my personality. She's like, "You'd be perfect for that show. Make a video, make it." So like, after 6 months, I finally made a video. But like, I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make it epic. And so I had just won. I had started modeling, right? So I had just won the best abs on the East Coast for Men's Health magazine. And the magazine had just come out. And so like a big part of my video was like, I got the best abs on the East Coast, like all this bullshit, you know. I'm smart, you know. I saw that as I always see opportunities as stepping stones to bigger opportunities. And so, you know, that got me on the show. First of all, like getting on the show itself was a whole other like story on its own. Like I got arrested. What?
Was it another beast?
Dude, like I got arrested at going to one of my interviews. Like, so basically what happened was, you know, the way casting works is you send in your video, then they email you, then you fill out like this 12-page questionnaire. And then you send that in, and like that questionnaire obviously was designed to kind of like figure out your personality. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I actually remember one of the questions was like, you know, if you had Aladdin's lamp, what would your 3 wishes be? And I was like, I wish for money, superpowers, and then I'd wish the genie free. Because if you watch the Aladdin show as a kid, after Aladdin frees the genie in the movie, they have a show and they just do cool shit together all the time. I was like, fuck, you know, I'll free the genie and we'll do cool shit. That'll be my 3rd wish. So, like, you know, these things are made to, like, bring out your personality to make sure you're good for the show itself. So after you send the paperwork in, then they do, like, I don't know what video service existed in 2009. It might have been Skype. But you do a call like this, and then you have to go to LA for your first interview. So I go there I'm going there for my first interview. And I had a girl that was in a bunch of my classes in college. Her name is Lily, and we became really good friends. And she lived out in LA. And so when I was out there, I was in San Diego, I think it was San Diego, for a convention called URSA, which is like for gym equipment, because I worked at a gym, like I told you. And so it's like a 2-hour drive to go from there to LA to my casting call. And so my friend Lily was like, "Oh, I'll pick you up and then I'll drive you there," right? So she picks me up and we're driving there. And when we were in college, I had an Audi, and it was like, I hated that fucking car so much. And she was in a brand new Audi, so we're driving, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, Lily, remember that piece of shit Audi I had in college that was like always giving me problems? And she looks right at me and she goes, yeah, I remember that. She goes, I love my Audi though. I never have any problems. I swear to God, as soon as she said the word problems and she finished her sentence, the car fucking died. Okay, like on the highway. And so she's like, all worried. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, car's not moving, bro. I'm like, so we pull over on the highway, and she's like, I have gas. It says I have like 60 miles left on the gas tank. I don't know why this isn't working. And I'm like, shit. So like, there was a off ramp, maybe like a mile up the road, right? So I'm pushing this fucking car down the highway in the breakdown lane. And, people in California are such fucking pricks. Nobody pulls over to help me, right? Like, if that's me and I'm driving down the road and I see someone pushing a fucking car, I'm going to get out and help. Nobody helps me. So I push this car up the off-ramp, and then I was hoping there would be a gas station there. Of course, there was, like, nothing there. So then we call for a tow truck. And meanwhile, remember, I had to be at my interview at, like, 4. It's, like, 3:30. So, like, I'm calling them. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm late, car trouble, whatever. So we call for a tow truck, and it sucked because like there was an accident on the other side of the highway. I could like literally see the tow truck stuck in traffic, and I'm just like waiting for the time. Finally get the car in the tow truck, and I'm like, listen, man, I am like 99% sure this car needs gas. And he's like, okay. So he brings us to a gas station. We fill it up while it's still on the bed. Car starts right up. And then come to find out later, there was actually a factory recall issue with her model Audi, where the sensor for how much gas you have was on like the left side of the tank, and then the fuel sending unit was on the right side of the tank, right? So there was gas, it was just over here, and it couldn't get to the fuel sending unit over there. Anyways, so we finally get there. I'm like, obviously, tired, sweaty, And so we get into the room, and this woman comes in. Her name was Sasha. I'll never forget her. And so, she's busting my balls. She's like, so you're here for your interview. You're late. What's going on? And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I tell her the whole story I just told you. And she stops me. She's like, listen, I got to stop you. I'm like, what? She goes, you have not blinked in 5 minutes telling me this story. You're freaking me out. I said, how does it feel to be the nervous one on the side of the conversation? And so like that because that shit happened, it brought my personality out in this first interview, And then so after the interview was over, this was like the second to last one, I left. And obviously like after that whole ordeal, I'm tired as hell. There was a metro that went from where I was in LA, like back to where the hotel I was staying in. It was like a hotel Mariana, whatever. It was like the subway station or train station, whatever you want to call it, stopped right there, and it was maybe like a 15-minute walk from the train. So I'm on the train, whatever, tired. The train finally pulls up. It's like a 2-hour train ride, and I had on shorts and like a t-shirt, and I had like a one strap like bag, right? And so I'm standing there at the door, and I'm fiddling with my bag because I had an iPod and I was putting it in my pouch, and I had my earpiece. I was putting my earpieces in, and I was like, okay, as soon as this door opens, I'm just gonna run because I could see where the hotel was, but I didn't know exactly how to get there, so I'm just gonna fucking run in this direction and get to this hotel. So as soon as the doors open, like I bolted out of there, like they weren't even fully open. Like I'm just gonna bolt, get there, and go to sleep, right? I didn't make it like not even 3 or 4 minutes down the road, and like 7 police cars just like surround me and like point their guns at me, and I'm like, holy shit! So I have like one hand up, and I took my other hand and I put it in my pocket to push play on my iPod, and they're like, hands in the air. And I'm like, I'm just pushing pause on my iPod. Fuck it. They come over, they put my arms behind me, they handcuff me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, right? And so the guy is saying to me, he's like, someone was seen matching your description loading a gun. And later, when I thought about this, I'm like, oh, people on the train probably thought I was like loading a gun because I was fiddling with my bag, and then I just bolted, right? As soon as the doors open. I'm like, Jesus, man, like people are so stupid. But anyway, so I'm arrested. There's 7 police people there. So I have that one strap backpack on, right? So they have me handcuffed, and the one of the cops is talking to me, and so the guy like picks up my bag to search it and like brings it over my head and pulls it back, and he's like pulling it, and of course it's hitting my handcuffs. And so I'm talking to the police officer, and I turn around, I'm like, dude, like you're gonna have to unhandcuff me to get the bag out. Like that's how it works, So like he unhandcuffs me, takes the bag, handcuffs me again, and the guy's like, where are you coming from? I was like, oh, I was at a job interview, in the city, and now I'm coming back. I'm staying at the Hotel Mariana because, I'm here for the URSA convention with my buddy and blah, 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 blah. Of course, they search my bag. There's no gun and all this other bullshit. And then they take the handcuffs off, and the cop that was there, I said to him, like, hey, man, I'm like, do you mind just like giving me a ride to my hotel? Like, I don't even know if I'm going in the right direction. So he was really cool, him and his partner. So like, yeah, I'll give you a ride. And so like they put me in the back of the police car. And then so we're talking, and they're like, what was your job interview for? And I was like, oh, it was actually, to go on the Real World. I'm on like the second to last interview. And they're like, oh shit, that's so cool. If you make it on, I'm going to tell everybody I arrested you. I was like, yeah, you can. And then like Superbad had just come out, like literally maybe a month or 2 before this all happened. And I was like, so let me do you guys really put the lights on and go through all the red lights like Superbad? And they're like, no, we can't do that. We'll get in trouble. So we get to the hotel, and I'll never forget like the people's faces because it was a fancier hotel. And like they just opened the door and let me out of the back. And they're like, see you later. Have a good day, Scott. I'm like, see ya. People are like, what the hell? Is kids coming out of the back of this cop car? So like that was the second to last interview. And so then when I got called back for the 5th interview, they actually just flew me right to LA, and I just like, went there right away. And then they actually, they had my magazine for best abs on East Coast, like on the table. Like they had set up props on the table so that people would come in. Cause like, they try to make, if you're not smart with the social media stuff, even back then, you would never get casted for a reality show. So when I went back for my 5th interview, which was the final interview, I walk in the room, I see the magazine. Now, mind you, this magazine is already like 6 or 7 months old at this point. There's no reason for the January issue of Men's Health to be on the table like in September, okay? So like I'm sitting there, and I'm like, it's a fucking magazine. And then people start coming in like they're on lunch, but what they're really doing is they're seeing how well you open up to strangers, all right? At least I assume that. I'll never know for sure unless they tell me, but it makes sense. So like, the person sits next to me, and they're like talking to me, and I'm like, hey, want to see something cool? And I remember I grabbed the magazine, and I was the pullout poster, right? And because I was the poster, like it's when you open a magazine, there's a poster in the middle. Sometimes you can just open right to it by accident. So like I by accident just like whip this thing open. I'm like, check out my pullout poster or whatever. So then I get called in for my interview. And then that interview, started out, and it was a different person interviewing me. And he's like, oh, I heard, you had some car trouble on your last interview. I'm like, shit, man, you think that's fucking crazy? Let me tell you what happened when I left. And so then that whole story came out, and then, I was on the show.
That's insane. I would not have expected that of a casting process for you.
Yeah, well, it's a funny story, and it's told the same way every time, so it's not embellished whatsoever. That's what happened. And then, 4 or 5 months later, I was moving into Brooklyn with some people who are now still good friends of mine,
Oh, you keep up with all them?
Shit, today's Ryan's birthday. I actually texted him this morning. Yeah, he texted me back.
Yeah, he was one of the main ones, you and him. Everybody was thinking that you guys were the two. Like, those are the 2 guys. They're going to be the challenge guys. And ironically enough, you guys...
Ironically enough, Chet was the one that did it,
Oh, JD did a couple as well.
Yeah, JD did a couple too.
But Sarah actually went on to be a mainstay on that show for a
Oh,
while.
Sarah did great. Devin's doing really great with her.
Yeah, she's the host of like the after shows for the challenge now.
Yeah. I talked to Devin, Chet, Devin and Chet the most. I keep in touch with everyone else. Like Ryan kind of does his own thing, has his family. But like I said, like, if we all call each other, we pick up the phone like, hey, what the fuck's up? You know what I mean? Like there's no animosity between any of us.
So
I was telling Devin, I was like, Devin, you need to go back on the challenge and then have me come on as your partner, and then we'll just like Brooklyn stomp all these snowflakes. It'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would be hoping for any semblance of a real world right now, of a presence of a real world on the main flagship show.
And,
where's your head at? You talked about obviously trying to get onto both of them. Which one would you rather if you were presented both on a platter to choose? Real world, All Stars or flagship?
I think I would have a more fun on the OGs, the We Want OGs, because I'm going to be with people who I know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you put me on the actual challenge show, I'll still see people I know, but I'm there to like tear shit up like 110%. I already told you before the show that I want that Josh Martinez ass. He still got me blocked on Twitter. He can't handle a little conversation back and forth between adults.
What sparked that? Was there any banter, or was it just sudden blockage?
Dude, yeah, there was banter back and forth. He said something like, yawn, the things people will do to get casted these days. I'm like, dude, you wish you had the kind of success I have. I just want to go on the show to beat your candy ass. That's why I want to go. I'm like, you're on my show. I was on The Real World. You weren't. You were on Big Brother. You should go do the Big Brother challenge, whatever the hell that is, and go stay over there. And that's why, too, because like my daughter's 22. So she was like all into Big Brother when it was on, and she would want us to watch the show with her. And I would see Josh on there. I'm like, man, this kid just needs to shut the hell up and like stop complaining and just be a man. I don't know what rubbed me wrong about him. I don't like his attitude. Like he seems very flaky and like complaining. And then I see him on the challenge and I'm like, no, that's my show. That's Real World show. So that's why I have it out for him. Plus like the way he acts on that show, he acts so tough. Like he starts shit knowing the bodyguard's going to hold him back. Like I don't like that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you saw it from the past season, but there was a little bit of a confrontation between him and Fessy, if you know who that is.
Yeah, I know Fessy. Yeah.
Yeah, and Fessy actually ended up being the one that got kicked off.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Josh threw a drink at him first, and Fessy mushed him, but Fessy was the only one that got kicked off.
See, I would if Josh threw a drink at me, I'd be like, thanks for the hydration, bitch. I'll see you in the the next elimination round. And I'm just gonna let's do hall brawl, bro. I'm gonna just rip you in half right in the middle of that shit, and I won't be sent home, and there won't be any security guards to hold me back either.
So where would you say the likelihood is right now? Like, you obviously extended a reach out to Dan, and then you and Mark were talking back and forth. Do you feel like the door is still open?
Oh yeah. At the end of the day, like these shows they want to make money. Right? Mm-hmm. They want to make money. They want to bring on, people with personalities that are gonna, have high energy. I mean, if they're looking for someone with a big following, I got 2.6 million followers on YouTube on my fitness channel. I just started my crypto channel. I got almost 20,000 subscribers on there. I just started like really using Twitter again over the course of the last few months, and I've already gained another 23,000 followers on there doing that. So like my social footprint is pretty big, and people who have been following me for so long, especially with the fitness stuff, they'll see me on there and be like, oh shit, that's the fitness guy. Like there's definitely enough social impact for them to want to have me there. I think you just have to fit the narrative, right? Like there's a narrative to these shows, and it's not personal. It's literally just business. So like I don't get offended. If I'm talking to Mark and Mark says send in your resume, and I don't get posted on the show, and I don't get picked. Like I didn't get picked for the first season, and I had messaged Mark a few times like about other shit, and he wasn't getting back to me. And I know people in this space, they get like really butthurt, right? And like really like, they take it personal. I remember I sent Mark a message like last year. I was like, hey dude, I already know I'm not on the first season. Like I don't give a fuck. We're still friends. Like don't ever think that I'm going to be upset if I'm not casted to the show. I obviously reached out to him because I wanted to get casted on the show and I wanted to talk to him. But I remember fondly doing appearances with him and parties with him, and just how much of an incredible guy he is and how nice he is and how well we kicked things off together. And so I was just happy to reconnect, But, people get upset, and, a lot of people have come off these shows and like hired their own video crews to follow them around to try to get their own spinoff, that whole limelight thing is huge. I remember when we had just got off the show, we were doing like appearances and stuff, and we'd be at bars with guys, from previous seasons. And it was like they latched onto you because you were the hot new thing, and they wanted to like latch onto you to like, get a piece of that fame back, right? Get that attention back. And oh yeah, oh there's Scott. Oh hey, there's so and so from season, whatever. Oh hey, what's up? Yeah, let's take a photo together. Kind of like that scene in the Avengers Endgame when they're sitting at the table and like the kids come over, take a photo with the Hulk, and then Ant-Man's like, "Hey, you want a photo of me? I'm Ant-Man," and they're like, "No," and then he's like, "Oh, it's fine," and the Hulk's like, "No, go take a photo with him. It'd be cool." He's like, "I don't even want the photo." Like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's what happens.
So yeah, you were actually, we were talking about this off camera too. We talk about the niche that you carved for yourself with not doing the challenge by starting your YouTube channel, and we talked about kind of how 2007 2009 was when YouTube was really starting to find its footing, and you were the original pioneer in terms of fitness through YouTube. So well, so the YouTube thing, like I said, everyone said it was nothing. It would never turn into anything. But I saw the opportunity there, and the opportunity I saw was educating millions around the world, right? Like when I go on my YouTube analytics page and I see like all the subscribers I have from countries that we've never even heard of, and then when they actually do their best to write in English to tell me how much my videos have helped them, because like a lot of these countries that have like gyms that are made up of literally like bamboo sticks and fucking mud and rocks, okay? Like their only source of information sometimes nowadays, if they can get access to it, is YouTube. And they watch these videos. And as an educator, like right now, unfortunately, like YouTube fitness is all about like toxic bullshit, like who's on steroids, who's talking shit, which 21-year-old kid took SARMs to get jacked and drop his natural testosterone levels to be able to jump on TRT and abuse that system to basically do like a low dose steroid cycle. That's all it is right now, and you got 16-year-old kids, jumping on drugs because they want to make TikTok videos and look shredded. Like kids nowadays are just fucking their bodies up so much, and all they care about is that limelight we just talked about, right? I want likes and subscribers on Instagram and TikTok. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that shit does not pay the bills forever, or even sometimes not at all, right? But getting back to, the YouTube stuff, so because I was an innovator in the space, that led to me doing a lot of other things. I was actually the head trainer for Lionsgate for 3 years. They had their own YouTube channel called BFit, right? So I was creating content for movie releases like The Expendables, Central Intelligence, Day After Tomorrow. I was doing red carpet interviews for movies for like American Assassin. I've done all kinds of like random stuff stemming from getting popular on social media and then also having this reality star TV background. I mean, last week I just did a Twitter space with CeeLo Green for a crypto token that I was doing spaces for called Hollywood Inu, so we had him on, and he was telling his story and we were shooting the shit back and forth. And, like I'm able to basically move into all these different spaces. And it's funny, right? Like I have conversations with people from so many different backgrounds, especially now that I do the crypto stuff, right? And I have a team that works with me. And they're always so confused because I'll be talking to people and like the number one thing that's always said in these conversations is like, hey, don't repeat this, and they'll like stop dropping all these like alpha things they haven't told the communities yet.
And then my guys are like, why do people trust you? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I am trustworthy. Like, like if I sign an NDA or if someone says something and they're like, hey, keep this to yourself for now, but this is like the direction we're going in, my lips are sealed. I ain't saying shit. But, I was able to do the Lionsgate BFit stuff. I actually have 3 full length, DVDs, Jane Fonda style with BFit that came out like a few years back. That was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
Like, those 20-minute nonstop workout videos where you got a group behind you. I have one of the most popular programs on bodybuilding.com called MetaBurn 90. And that program exploded, obviously, during COVID because it's a totally 100% at-home program. No weights. You just follow along with me. Actually, if you go on Instagram right now and you type in Scott Herman, there's a little GIF pops up that says, let's get started. And it's from that program. And, people love my accent, so they like saying started.
Yeah, you got the Pat McAfee accent going there.
Yeah. We know what's funny is when I started my YouTube channel, you'll notice that I hid my accent. And I did that because I was still pursuing acting, and I didn't want people to see my YouTube videos and just hear my accent all the time. So now it's kind of funny, right? Like, unless I'm really excited or angry, my accent kind of goes in and out because when I do videos, I purposely will try to say certain words and pronounce them properly, because when I talk to people who speak different languages, they don't know what a car is. They know what a car is, but they don't know what a car is, right? So maybe 4 years ago, I just said, fuck it, I'm not going to hide my accent anymore. And people were like, what's going on here? I just watched an older video and now I'm watching a new video and you sound totally different. I was like, it is what it is. But so I also had a chance from Lionsgate I was in a movie called Heist. I had like a really small role, but it was awesome. Did you see Heist with Dave Bautista, Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Big WWE guy. I know Dave Bautista.
Yeah. So Robert De Niro, Mark Paul Gosselaar, Gina Carano were all in this movie called Heist. And I was in it. I was a SWAT team captain. They shaved my head, gave me cool sunglasses, and I had like 4 lines. It was awesome. I had never acted like in a movie before. It's very different than making YouTube videos, obviously. But all of my banter was with Mark Paul Gosselaar. And for those of you who don't know who that is, that's Zach from Saved by the Bell. I mean, he's super famous, so people should know who he is. It was really cool. So, like, I'm in the hotel gym with my wife, and I was like, oh, shit, there's David Bautista. And my wife's like, who's that? I'm like, the fucking guy who's as big as a house standing over there in this dinky hotel gym, And so I actually had lunch with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Dave Bautista one day on set, and it was so hard to not ask for a photo, right? Because I had to be cool. Right, so I'm like a huge Supernatural fan, and obviously Jeffrey Dean Morgan is Papa Winchester, so we're just shooting the shit and talking. 2 guys, so down to earth, so nice. It was really cool experience.
Yeah, my question is, how often do the lines get blurred between Scott Herman, the fitness guy, and Scott Herman, the reality star? Because when I was doing my due diligence, I saw a couple, I think Reddit was one of the big places where they're like, yeah, I was scrolling through fitness one day, one of my favorite fitness influencers, I come to find out he was on The Real World. What a small world. I can't believe that's Scott from the show. Does that happen a lot for you? Yeah,
it does. And, obviously not as much now because it's been, 10, 11 years, but people do still recognize, especially with the OG challenge coming out and people are like doing their research and they're searching for things. But yeah, I mean, mostly now I'm known for obviously the fitness stuff, but when I do mention Real World or people start talking about entertainment business and I talk about the stuff I did, they go, oh shit, yeah, I do remember you. Like, yeah, I remember you doing that. That's awesome. Then they reminisce on the show and they say kind of the same things like you said, like, oh, back then these shows were way better. The people they had on them were actually more real. They had actual things to talk about. So,
dude, reality TV is just, it's not what reality TV was, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, not at all.
Conversations that were being had, you don't see those these days. We don't have conversations that don't exist. It's almost like reality television now has taken on the form of social media and how that is artificial conversations and interactions.
Well, it's all fabricated bullshit, really.
People
And
fight on
people,
the shows and then they go on vacation after and are fine. It's like they do this specifically for the cameras.
yeah, and you can tell it's fake, right? You
Yeah.
can tell when it's fake. And people don't want to talk about real issues, right? Like, if I got something to say or I have an opinion, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to stand by my convictions. And if it's not, we live in, well, actually, you know what? I think we're finally getting on like the opposite end of the swing of the wrecking ball for being politically correct, because I think people are just like completely sick of it at this point, So I feel like maybe I won't get canceled as fast as I thought if I'm on the show and I'm just being myself. And I'm not, and that's not to say that I'm like some kind of asshole. But I mean, I stand up for what I think is right, and if I have an opinion that's maybe goes against the grain, my innate desire is to always be a kind, and gentle person and stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves, And if I'm being honest with you, that's one of the reasons why I admired, Chet from my season so much, because we would go out and remember Caitlin was the first transgender cast member on a show. And our show was the first show to tackle that issue on reality TV. I mean, shit, at the time, I'm just some kid, who lives 30 minutes outside of Boston in New Hampshire. I didn't even know you could have a gender change surgery. When Ryan and Chet were telling me, oh, that's that girl used to be a guy. I'm like, you guys are fucking crazy. Like, that's not possible. This isn't a movie. I had no idea, and then 3 months later, I can tell you anything you need to know about, transitioning. You want, if you're looking to change the gender roles, Mike, we can have a conversation later. I can fill you in. But up until that point, I didn't know anything about that. But there were times where we would be out in the city and dudes would like talk shit about Caitlyn. I remember one time specifically, we were outside this club we went to all the time called Libation, and we went there because there was a crepe shop right next to it that made the best crepes in the city. I forget the name of it. Yeah, look up Libation Club. It's in like the lower side of the city, and right next door, if it's still there, there's a crepe shop. We would go there every day. So like Caitlin and Ryan and Sarah and Bea are all across the street. JD getting a crepe. Me and Chet are on the other side of the street, and we're just standing there waiting for everyone to cross. And these dudes had seen Caitlin, and then like news had already been on like Reddit and shit that she was transgender, and so they were talking shit about her. I remember like it was yesterday. These guys were like talking shit, and Chet just walks over and like pokes one of them in the shoulder. He's like, "You got a fucking problem with my friend over there talking all this shit?" And obviously the kids did nothing, But I remember seeing Chet do that. I'm like, man, this guy does not give any fucks. Like if anybody is he's super religious. Obviously, he's Mormon. He doesn't push his religion on anyone, but like he's by the book, by the Bible. Do unto others as you want done unto yourself. And it was like from that point on, I had so much respect for Chet because I was about to walk over. He beat me to it, which is usually doesn't happen. But like that's how I am as a person. Like if I see something I don't agree with, I'm gonna walk over and say something. Or if I see some asshole pushing a car down the breakdown lane on the highway, I'm gonna pull over and be like, dude, you need some help? I was at Staples the other day in my town, and I had just got there. I was about to go in, and there was a police officer there with his hood up, right? So obviously he needed help. And so I went into Staples. I needed like a day planner. I came out like 15 minutes later, and he's still standing there with his hood up. And I stopped and I said to him, and he had jumper cables. I was like, has no one stopped to help you? Like, no. I'm like, I saw like 15 people leave here. No one stopped to help you. He's like, no. I'm like, what the fuck? So I obviously helped him. But like, that's how people are nowadays. Yeah. They pretend like they're these, virtue signaling, politically correct messiahs on social media, but they're actually just conceited pieces of garbage that wouldn't help you even if you needed it.
Yeah. It's like real instances like that we don't see today. It just doesn't exist. And I think that, yeah, go ahead.
I'll take it back. If they had a friend there to record them helping the police officer, then they would do it.
There you go. Yeah.
Then you bet you're at like those guys that like drive around and give people $100 bills. Go fuck yourself, dude. Why don't you just give the $100 bills out and then don't make a spectacle out of it?
Yeah.
You know?
It's all for image these days.
Yeah, it's all for image. It's all bullshit.
Unfortunately, the times we're in, but
Well, that's why you need people like me to be like, no. Like, let's get real. You did that because you want likes and followers on TikTok. Like, screw you.
Yeah. I think that's what made Real World Brooklyn stand out so well. And when I had Sarah on, she actually said that your guys' season was sandwiched in between Cancun and Hollywood specifically as an experiment, because you hear Cancun, Hollywood lights, kind of tropical, and then you guys, it's just in stone cold blue chip Brooklyn, and
people like that.
From all different walks of life, and we're gonna deal with real problems.
Everyone said that, like, the Brooklyn season was a throwback season. And, like, it was a show about real people. I mean, shit, the whole season, Ryan was so fucking excited for Obama to get elected, and he was so excited that he was not going to have to go back, to active duty, gets a letter halfway through the show. After celebrating in the street, dressed as Uncle Sam, it was on one of the episodes. And then me and Chet are the only conservatives in the house, so he's like, fuck you in your face, Obama wins, woo, and like, whatever. So he's celebrating, he's excited, and then like a week later, his mom calls, hey, by the way, you just got your letter, you have to go back. And then he was just wrecked from that, and he had told us stories about things he had seen, like, people setting up IEDs on the side of the road and getting blown up.
Wow.
In front of him, like body parts flying across the street, like that shit messed them up, a little bit, and as it should for anyone who had to deal with that. And so, towards the end of our season, when we got that news, I had actually gone out and I bought like a journal, and then I had everybody in the house. I'm like getting emotional right now thinking about it.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
But I had everyone in the house write Ryan like a passage, to be like, supportive. And so we gave it to him, and it was really special.
Wow, that's awesome, dude. That's big of you. Like that, those are the moments like we look for in reality television. Like that's real right there. That's all.
Well, it wasn't done for the cameras, like
exactly.
If that was today, that would be done for the cameras. Or like when I gave Caitlin money, they're like, oh, he only did that because it's on the show. It's like, no, my friend like literally was doing something important and needed support, and the show wasn't going to help her because that's not real. That's not what the show's for. You can't even talk to people holding the camera, because if you do, they'll get fired because they're not supposed to interact with you. And so these things that happened were real. It wasn't just getting drunk and fucking each other. Like, none of us hooked up on the show. Granted, Ryan and Bea had a relationship after, but it was very and our show was like guys versus girls. Like, we were putting rats in Sarah's bed. Like, there's an episode where like, but JD went to the store and bought like a pet shop rat and put it in her bed, and she it was funny as hell, but it was real relationships, and Ryan and Chet became such close friends. There's a scene of them like sitting in like the boat that they had outside the house on the water. It was like we had like a little like area that they made look nice, and it's like them like playing the guitar and singing, like it was real. It was cool.
Yeah, do you have any other funny memories you could share? I mean, you got to tell the one that you told me about JD when he
well, that's in an episode, right? So like at that point, Ryan and Sarah were not getting along, and JD was like pissed. I don't even remember like why they were getting mad at Sarah. I think they thought that she was like being fake about something. And so JD is like screaming and like he lost it. And he like takes this like basket and he slams it on this table, and the table shatters, and there was like these yarn balls in there, and like one of them shot into the air and then came down on his head and like bounced off his head. You can see it in the episode. And like shit was funny as hell. But like there were definitely funny times in the house. So I was getting pissed in the house because like literally day one, the girls were like, we want to keep the house clean. Boys are messy, so if you're going to like eat, make sure you wash your dishes and like all this bullshit. Yeah. After a week, guess who was leaving all the dishes in the sink? It wasn't the boys. It was the girls. So leaving all their shit everywhere. So late one night, me and Chet, and this is on an episode too, Chet is just sitting there eating like cornflakes at like 11 o'clock at night. and I took all of the dishes and all the silverware, all the cups, and I locked them all in the cabinet. And I left out one dish, one cup, one spoon, one fork, one knife for everyone. And I like set the table, and I was like, it's like, now you guys all have one, and if you don't wash it, it's your problem, And it was funny too because I had a chair that I had to step on to like get on the counter to put the dishes in the cabinet. And one time I stepped down and I stepped on like the edge of the chair, and the thing flipped over and I landed like right on my ribs.
Oh.
I can't remember if that's in the show or not, but like I like landed on it and like bounced off. I was fine. Luckily, I don't know, maybe I braced my core the right way or something, but I just remember that fondly. And Chet's just sitting like on the kitchen sink eating his cornflakes. He's you know how Chet is. Chet's like, this is great. Oh, I mean, I can't wait to see what the girls say, see all this shit. So then after that, Caitlin took the balls from the pool table and hid them and said, we're not getting them back until we get the plates back out or unlock the cabinet, because we played pool every day. And then we had devised the plan to find her dilators, and then we decided not to. That's something that you use to transition. We'll just leave it at that. But then we eventually made up, obviously, and some of the other more important shit happened, like Ryan got his phone call and all these other things. But there was like funny times too in the house. When they're filming you, you get acclimated to it almost to the point where you forget they're there. So like I remember I was sitting down like eating with I think Ryan or Bea at the table, at the kitchen table, and then I like, for whatever reason, like jumped out of my chair and ran to go somewhere else. And I turned around and ran and like face first into the camera, Yeah, like
talk about breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, and it's funny and everyone laughs, but there are things like that happen just because they're trying to like be in your face and keep it real. I remember one time me and Ryan were playing pool, and the camera guy put his camera like really low on the pool table, and Ryan shot his ball and it like shot right into the camera, and we're like, oh shit, like we thought we broke it, And then there was one camera woman that we all thought was cute, so they can hear everything you say.
Yeah.
So whenever she would come around, we'd be like, oh yeah, camera girl number one's back. Oh yeah, and just like busting balls. Like we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, All Stars isn't the only show that's taken form now. There's also a Homecoming show that's revisiting Real Worlds. Obviously, of course, you guys being one of the, I guess you can call it latter seasons, you would probably have to get through some seasons first. But if the time ever comes, what do you think if your phone call starts to come and it's for a Homecoming season revisiting in Brooklyn?
Oh, I think that would be great. What it's
you guys
funny.
Would probably be able to make that happen, right? You think everybody would co-sign on it?
I think so. Like maybe some of my castmates might not be willing to do a challenge because of obviously, like if you get hurt or anything like that, that's going to affect your job and coming home.
Yeah.
But doing a homecoming, and I have seen this, by the way, that's just a little more of just like real life with cameras. So I think that they would be down for it for sure.
Yeah, I know I think Sarah and Caitlin both might be therapists now. I know Sarah is. So that, yeah.
Like that, let's have a little therapy session. That could be good, that could be part of the show. We all start fighting, and Sarah and Caitlin are like, let's just lay down on the therapist couch. What's really going on, Scott? What's the deeper issue here?
Did you ever see? I'm sure you've seen it, but to what extent did you see when Bananas took the money from Sarah on that one show? And if so, what were your sentiments?
Oh, I don't know much about it, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I know what happened. I know she got screwed over, but I was too busy doing my own thing to like care that much.
Oh, okay.
I guess is the best way to say it.
They were partners and they won.
Yeah, but I know they were partners, and I know she was pissed. And I think at one point I did have a conversation with her about it. But hey, that's the name of the game, right? There can only be one winner. It's just like when you watch the Hunger Games and they're all running around in groups, and it's like, at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to kill you, but it's not gonna be right now. It might be right now, but it's not going to be right now. But it could be, but there's only one winner.
Did you ever meet like CT, Bananas, all those guys on appearances or anything like that?
I've met, I think, Bananas once. So when I was growing up I worked at a gym in Methuen, Mass. It was a Gold's Gym that turned into Latitude Sports Club. So me and Cara Maria actually worked together for many years at that gym, even before I went on the show.
Yeah.
Like in our early teens. So we knew
each other. Was this Gold's Gym?
It was a Gold's Gym, and then it later turned into a gym called Latitude Sports Club. It was like the biggest gym in the area in Methuen. It's right by a place called The Loop. It's like 65,000 square feet. It's a huge gym. Yeah. But we worked there. CT would go to the gym because he lived in the area. So I had met him, and I was younger than him. I was still like maybe 16, and I don't know how much older than me he is. But like we weren't friends, but like he knew who I was. I worked there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do have some relationships with some of the other cast members outside of that, and obviously like. Doing appearances with the people from the seasons before and after mine, from from the Cancun season and the season before, and then some of the regulars like Ruth or Mark, doing appearances with them and whatnot. So, I mean, I know a few people, and there are some that I would definitely have some bonds with strong enough where I could make an alliance. Who
are those people?
Well, I already told Mark. I'm like, hey, Mark, if I get on OGs, we got to link up, And then actually, when season 3 got casted, and I mean, I knew I wasn't going to get casted for season 3, but I sent him a text message, and I was like, hey, man, I go, what's up with season 3? You don't want 2 incredibly good-looking guys on the same show? Like, he's just like laughing, He's like, obviously, bro, that's not it. I'm like, I know, dude. I'm just busting your balls.
Oh gosh. Yeah, were the appearance scenes kind of kicking off like quite often once you got off of Brooklyn? Like, what was the scene like coming off the show?
I feel like the scene itself was starting to like die down.
Really?
So like we still did really well, but I mean, 5 years before that, I mean, you'd make $200,000-$300,000 probably doing appearances because it was like all the time, and it was like the cool thing. I mean, I have yet to see any like bars doing reality star appearances like in any ads or anything lately. It's like
a really long time.
So I'm saying like it's kind of like fiddled out because as social media grew, more and more people were becoming like social media influencers or stars. Yeah. So like that stuff kind of went away with. I think our season was probably one of the last seasons that really got to see a good amount of appearances.
And then you had Jersey Shore come like immediately after you guys too, and they were starting to like kind of steal Real World's thunder a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, I actually knew some of the casting directors that were telling me about Jersey Shore as my season was airing. They're like, "Oh yeah, this new show's coming out. It's called Jersey Shore. It's gonna be this amazing thing, and it's all these guys are crazy." I'm like, "Shit, let's see what happens." And then obviously a phenomenon happened. I was like, "Fuck, I wish I was on that show." You know what I mean? Well, maybe not, but like, you know what I mean, right?
Do you think any of those guys would do well on the show, the challenge?
I don't know. Maybe. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be. I don't think there's any tanning beds.
No, I don't.
Or steroids. So I don't know if they're gonna be able to like a lot of these guys they beef up and like by the end of the show they're a little deflated. It's like, well, you're not getting your vitamins in during the 3-week filming. I mean, the 6-week to 8-week filming period, bro. What's going on there?
Did you ever think about getting into acting once you immediately got off your Real World before starting the whole YouTube thing?
Well, that was kind of what I was pursuing. And then like I said, I had that opportunity to do, that movie, The Heist, which was cool. But what I came to realize is that I am a lot better off being myself in creating my own social platform, which is why I've been as successful as I am now. But I would have never found that out or realized that if I wasn't a starry-eyed kid, 18 years old, pursuing modeling and acting. Because at that point in time, back then, there was no social media. That shit didn't exist. The only way you got famous was getting on shows, doing movies. Then this whole other world opened up, which was, like I said, it was YouTube. And I capitalized on that opportunity. and luckily it worked out.
Did you ever hit like one of those blocks that because I see with social media and just content creators in general, they hit like these blocks where like it's almost like their audience is almost like what have you done for me lately type of thing where maybe your content's not quite as peaking as it was. Like, did you ever face those, and like how maybe did those test you as like an individual?
Well, yes and no, right? Like what I do for fitness content is education and teaching. So there's always new ways to go about reintroducing the same content. Because as you're gaining new subscribers, they're not necessarily going to watch all your older videos, but they still need to learn like the basics of fitness. So you have to find creative ways to reintroduce, things you've talked about before, but maybe you add some more information or put a different spin on it. So I wouldn't say I've had like a block. But I've had to obviously reinvent myself many times over the years to be able to, still do this 10 years later. There's not a lot of people on YouTube that have been doing this for as long as me. Usually what happens is they fizzle out after a year or two because most of their information is kind of just based on themselves and people move on, like they need some substance, they need to learn from you. At least that's my opinion on it. The only real roadblock I hit with YouTube is they're a bunch of assholes and they're constantly dogging channels that are older and they're constantly, either lightly shadow banning your channel or, I've had people who have been unsubscribed from me 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And YouTube does this shit. YouTube does shady shit. I was talking to some guy the other day. I won't say his name just because I don't want to put him on the spot, but he was huge on YouTube around the same time I was. And he was starting to notice the same thing. He's like, dude, like people are getting unsubscribed from me. Their notification bells are being turned off and all this other stuff, or, my videos aren't showing up in the main feed. And, he was going to go public with a lot of this information and YouTube paid him $100,000 to shut his mouth. They're like, we'll pay you $100,000 if you don't talk about this stuff. Cause he had a lot of influence at the time, like 4 or 5 years ago. So like this stuff happens. Like when you go on YouTube, there's a reason why you always see newer creators, and there's a reason why newer creators grow so fast. I mean, shit, I just started my crypto channel a few months ago. I already got almost 20,000 subscribers. I did a live the other day. I had like 2,200 people watching. It's a brand new channel, bro. Why am I getting all this attention? Because YouTube wants brand new creators to feel like they can make it on their platform. So there's this constant struggle with social media where you have to always understand, Instagram's the same thing. They changed the algorithm. All of a sudden you're getting half of the amount of likes that you were getting before. You have to understand when you're in this space, you have to be headstrong. It is not you. It is these social platforms trying to figure out every which way they can screw you over, bring more people in, and then provide you an opportunity to pay to get that same engagement that you used to have back when you first started. That's what it really is. But what happens? Because not everybody knows this, or maybe they do, but like they don't think about it as intently as maybe someone like me does, who's done it for a long time. This is when you start seeing people get like depression, right? Yeah. People fall into these like rabbit holes of just like, what's wrong with me? Why aren't people liking my content anymore? What can I do to like get them back? And then all of a sudden you find yourself making an OnlyFans and you're shoving golf balls up your ass because that's what's bringing in the subscribers, baby. And we laugh. We sit here and we laugh, but that is the shit that's happening.
No, it's true.
And instead of people going out to get an education, right? Like, I have an education. I have a bachelor's degree in business management, which allowed me to be able to do everything I do now. I had a DJ business for 8 years. I had my real estate license for a few years. I did financial consulting for a few years. I've done a lot of shit, which is why I'm probably able to enter all these different spaces. Like your entire life, you need to always be educating and learning yourself because you never know what the future holds, right? Like now that I'm really into crypto, and whether you're into it or not, this isn't a sales pitch, it is the future. So I'm entering spaces with people for all these different tokens who are trying to feel shit out the way I did back in 2009 when YouTube was never going to work, right? All the same people have said to me, YouTube's not going to work. Those same people are saying that about these crypto companies that are like getting into gaming, and are doing like NFTs and making the metaverse. Like if you don't think the metaverse is the next big thing, you're an idiot. Okay. So all these, I'm able to jump into these conversations and talk to people on all walks of life because my entire life wasn't me just trying to like film the next, stupid fucking TikTok dance, and that was my day. I was getting educated. I was trying to build businesses. I was trying to, meet people, talk to people, helping strangers fix their fucking car because I'm not an asshole. A funny story, when I was in college, I had an 84 Camaro, okay? And if you don't know much about cars, Camaros and Firebirds are basically identical, all right? So I'm at the mall in my neighborhood, and this guy was pulled over. I could tell he had car trouble, had a Firebird. I'm like, I could probably help him fix it. And my car was always, I grew up, I wouldn't say poor, but like I wasn't rich. So I always had tools in my Camaro because that shit broke all the time. And so I pull over and I have my tools and I end up helping this kid fix his car. I'll never forget his name. His name is Josh, instant friends from there. And then literally like 3 weeks later, I'm at the movie theater at this place called The Loop. And I'm about to get into a fight with this kid that I have by the neck, at least 3 feet in the air, because I was leaving the movie theater. This is like the place to be, by the way, in my town. It was like where everybody went. I was leaving, and my friends were on the other side of like this entranceway. And I said, they were going to the bathroom. I said, hey, I'll be outside. I'll be waiting for you guys out back. And I just walk outside, and I'm leaning against like the door on like the left side of the entrance, just minding my own business. And this kid walks up to me with like 2 of his friends and his girlfriend. He's like, what the fuck did you say to my girlfriend? I was like, I'm 18 at this point in time. I'm like, what? He's like, what did you say to my girlfriend? I'm like, bro, I don't know you, dude. Like, I was just talking to my friends. Like, leave me alone. And he's like, no. He's like, what'd you say to my girlfriend? I'm like, I didn't. I promise you I said nothing to your girlfriend. I'm sorry if you felt that way. I didn't say anything to your girlfriend. And then I remember like it was yesterday. He took his finger and he fucking jabs me in the chest. And he's like, what the fuck did you say to my girlfriend, you faggot? And I was like, oh, no. Now, the switch flips. So I pick this kid up by his throat. And I throw him against the wall. I'm screaming at him. Like my veins in my neck are like popping out the ear. And I was like, I'm sorry if you guys think differently of me after this, but this was when I was 18. That was 20 years ago. Okay, I'm 38 now. But I said to the kid, I didn't say anything to your ugly ass girlfriend. Like, and I pointed to her, and then I look, and then she had like bolted, and so did his 2 friends. And I remember I was like, your friends left you to die, right? And he's like freaking out. So I'm like screaming at this kid. Mind you, while he was in my face, like with his 2 friends, like I was kind of one of those people in high school. I was like, I'm a social butterfly, like my mom. Like I like kind of talk to everyone. Mm-hmm. So like this was the place to be. So like all these different groups of like kids that I knew saw me like, the kid in my face, and they also knew that like I worked out and I was doing like MMA fighting and things. So like they knew not to jump in, that I would be okay. But like this half circle of about like 30 people had formed behind them that they didn't know about. And so then when I flipped out and picked the kid up and threw him against the wall and started screaming at him, his friends probably realized, they bolted. He's freaking out. And then the one guy that came over to get me to stop was that guy Josh that I helped fix his car 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
He walks up, he's like tugging on my arm. He's like, Scott. And I like my personality, I get really like I have a really like yin yang personality where if I get angry, I get really angry, but I can turn it off like a flip of a switch, right? So I'm like screaming at this kid, and my friend Josh, I hadn't seen him in 3 weeks since I helped him fix his car. He's like, dude, the cops are coming. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, ah, oh hey, what's up, Josh? Well, I'm like holding this kid up. I'm like, what's up, dude? He's like, bro, what's going on? The cops are coming. I was like, this guy tried to fight me. He's like, whatever. So I let the kid down, right? And then the police officer that worked the area was in the movie theater. So he walks outside and he comes over and the kid starts shaking my hand and he's like, I'll see you next Saturday. And then he leaves and he was pretending like he was my friend. And so the cop comes over. He's like, what was all that about? I was like, this dude tried to fight me for no reason. And I picked him up by his throat. And then you came out and then he pretended he was my friend and left because he didn't want to get in trouble. And the cop calls me. He's like, it's like, oh, it's like, well, don't do that shit back here. I was like, okay,
Oh my God.
You didn't know what you were getting into when you decided to have this podcast, like. Moral of the story is, it's important to have real life experiences, whether they're bad or good, because you never know how your life is going to unfold in the future. And you never know what kind of lessons you're going to learn from things that happen when you're younger, right? Like even with relationships, I had so many girlfriends that broke up with me, for whatever reason. What I heard the most was like I was too nice. And I was. When I was in my like teens and early 20s, I was way too nice. I got walked over by a lot of girls. And not to say that I was Mr. Perfect, but I was way too nice. I believed like every story I was told, like, if a girl didn't call me, back for a few days and she's like, oh, I was busy, now, as an adult, I'm like, man, girls are on their phone 24/7. That just means she don't like you. But I was very naive and gullible back then, which I will say, though, when my daughter started dating, I was able to give her some really good advice. And she has an amazing boyfriend. She's been with for 2 years now, loves her, treats her with respect and kindness, and I was able to help guide her on the dating side of things. It's funny, right? Like my wife would give advice and I would give advice and she would just like land somewhere in the middle with what she would do. Because I would be extreme out here because as a man, I know what all these guys are doing. I know every line in the book because as soon as I got off the real world, I probably wrote some of them. All right. Let's just be real. So, you learn, like life experience, you learn. And I feel like a lot of this young generation, they don't know how to have these impactful conversations in these reality shows and like these reality dating shows. A lot of them, they don't have that same substance just because like this generation doesn't experience it. They don't.
No, they don't. You're 100% correct. And who knows, maybe in the future some tides can be turned in that regard, but I don't know. I just feel like maybe the reality genre as we once knew is all but evaporated, I guess.
Well, I mean, even look on social media, right? Like what you see on Instagram, you think somebody's life is so perfect. Like they literally, there's actually if you go to the movie theater, like an AMC movie theater, they have an ad that plays before the movie about like, being in the moment. And they show people taking selfies like smile and then like instantly like smile's gone. They're just like on their phone doing their thing, or, a plate of food comes out. And instead of being like, oh shit, that's great, eating it. Actually, my wife and I just celebrated our 7-year anniversary. We've been together for about 13.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you, man. So our 7-year anniversary was on Sunday. So we went out to lunch. I got us couples massages, and then we went to a Jason Derulo concert at Universal.
Oh, and I love Jason Derulo. Dude, Riding Solo is my favorite song by Jason.
He sang that. I love that song too. And first of all, Jason Derulo is incredible live. Sings amazingly, dances. The whole show is great. But I was getting pissed because the guy in front of me was like filming the entire show. I'm like, dude, put your phone down. Like you literally, it said like 10 minutes. He's holding this phone. I'm like, you are never going to watch this video ever. Why are you filming it? But people feel so compelled now to film everything that they're not even enjoying the moment, right? Like my wife is shorter than me. This asshole has his phone almost in her face the whole time in front of us. I'm like, dude, are you going to film the whole show or are you going to watch some of it? Like if you want a video of the show, go buy it when the show's over. You know what I mean? Yeah. But everyone needs to be like, oh, I was there. It's like, can you just be there, have fun, dance?
Yeah, no, it's not about enjoying the experience anymore. It's about going on an experience, letting everybody else think that the experience is great instead of making it great yourself.
Yes, the only place you can go right now to enjoy an experience is like a water park, right? Because no one can have their phone out.
Yeah.
It's like,
didn't even think of that.
Yeah, just go to a water park, or at least when we can start doing things in the metaverse and you have your Oculus on, unless they like give you a phone that you can hold up to be an asshole, at least that'll be a place where you can finally go where there's not phones everywhere at every event.
Well, I had a ton of fun chatting with you today, and I enjoyed all your stories, as I'm sure the listeners and viewers will as well. And I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of people when we say that hopefully in the near future we see you on our TV screens in any capacity, whether it be Paramount Plus for an all-star show or a homecoming show, or on MTV itself for the flagship.
I think
you'd kill it.
Hey, man, I think that would be a lot of fun, right? And that's why I want to do it. I want to have some fun. I don't need the money. I don't care. I still want to win because I'm competitive. I like to be the best, but that's why I want to do it. I want to provide entertainment. And, for those of you who've been following me for a very long time, I'm 38. I'm going to be 40 soon. I want to show you that at 38 years old, I can still whoop some ass pretty easily. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it going. Let's get this movement going.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I'll tag you when this is all out. And thanks again for a great chat.
I hope you don't get canceled, brother, for after people hear this episode.
Oh, God. Let's just hope not for my sake.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening. And for those of you who are here who have subscribed to my channel or enjoyed my season and you've been along for this wild ride over the last, 10 plus years, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my support. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for the support. It truly does mean a lot. And I can't ever say that enough. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. And if you guys want to go subscribe to his channels, feel free to plug them right now.
Yeah, if you guys, my fitness channel, Scott Herman Fitness on YouTube and Instagram. My Twitter is Scott_Herman because that was cool back then when it first came out, was to do the underscores. I think Chet is the same way, Chet_Cannon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my crypto channel is Scott Herman Crypto. So it's really easy. You just type in my first name and last name. Do you know who Justine is? Are you familiar with her? She's pretty big on YouTube.
I think I've heard of her, yes.
She does a lot of techie stuff. I remember when we first met her back in 2009, we were going to the MTV Movie Awards because that's what you do after the show. You get invited to movie awards. I remember her being like, "Oh, the underscore boys." I'm like, shut up, Justine, making fun of us for our underscores.
Yeah, now they let you do the period on Instagram now. Finally.
Yeah. I like that. I like the underscore better. I like that separation.
You get used to it, It was the first thing, so
it was cool.
All right, Scott. Well, I had a fun time chatting with you again, and hopefully, maybe in the future we'll do a recap or something if you're ever up for it for an All-Star.
Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, take care.
See ya, everyone.
See ya.